Hey guys, so welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So today I am going to be talking about the last book in the Harlem Renaissance for this year. Now there's about 20 something books in the Harlem Renaissance as of now. There's still books that every now and then get published after that was written during that period, which is from 1920 to the late 1930s. The books are written during that time, but the periods sometimes are much earlier in the storyline. So let me just give you a rundown of what I've read this year and how I feel about them. So I've read Passing by Nella Lawson. Very much a great book that deals with race in a way that you are you learn some things. But this book was creative because it wasn't just the double life of this one particular character, but it's also how she ends the story that will definitely grab you. I did a review of it. All of these books I did a review of, I will link them. Then we have The Black and the Berry and Wallace Thurman. Now these two books, Passing the Black and the Berry, if you have read Vanish in Half, I highly suggest you read these classics. You will see why. Then Romance in Marseille, now Claude McKay book that was written during the Harlem Renaissance but never got published until this year. Then we have Able with Big Teeth, another one that didn't get published till recently. My dog, guys, my dog. Alright, you done? Thank you. Then we have Kane. Now Kane is the first book in the Harlem Renaissance, but it's also a book that is about an author. Well, book is not about it, but the author is a real life passing. If you saw a picture of the man, you would not think whatsoever. This was the blackest book he read. he wrote, and he kind of went to live in the passing life after. So there's quite a few people who are not a fan of that his book was considered the first in the Harlem Renaissance series, but it is what it is. But his book was so creative, guys. It's a mixture of poetry, traditional storytelling, and play. He really went there. I did a full review. I highly recommend you check out the review. If you love poetry, I challenge yourself to read in this book. It's not an easy book to read, but once you try to take your time and analyze the stories and how he's creating these imagery within the poetry of the characters of the time and what was going on, you'll really appreciate this book. Absolutely love it. Then I went back to Quicksand, which is from Nella Lawson, and this is my favorite from her. Absolutely, like, what's the word? Amazing, because she dealt with identity in a way that was creative in this, because it's a character who is over being identified by race, and during a period of time where that's it, that's what was going on then. It was pretty much how this year was in terms of your identity and how much she tries to run from it, but ultimately made a decision that still completely did a full circle, where she has to acknowledge it for what it is and learn to cope and deal with it. It was an amazing story. I did a review of that as well. I will link it down. Go check it out. She's an amazing author, and I really want to read more of her work. I know she has some short story out there. I'm definitely going to get my hands on those. So now we're going to go to the last book. Now, what I learned from the Harlem Renaissance era so far, the books definitely represent the time. It represents the culture of African American, how they live, how they love, how they worship, their political views, their views of sexuality and romance, and all these things you learn through these Harlem Renaissance books during that era. And it's fascinating, but it's also very much realistic to even now of some of the things that they struggle with. And what I learned from the recent book, which is Not Without Laughter, which is from Langston Hughes, which is his debut novel, is this idea that you're stuck, and which shows a lot of African Americans during this period of time accepting what is being handed to them, what they cannot get beyond that. Jobs, they're expected to do the jobs that of taking care of the people in the community who are white, who are not wealthy, but have opportunity to allow them to make a little bit of money. In this case, you have a situation where something went wrong with this the white worker, who said the only reason why she's allowing these black people in her house to help is because she can't afford the white people, you know. And that was pretty like harsh to even know that you are definitely acknowledge that you are underpaying these black people, but you want to live the life that you yourself is struggling to even live. You can't afford it yourself. But it's a representation that you are white, you're living in this community amongst black people, you should be taken care of. That's the idea in this story. Now, another thing about the Harlem Renaissance, stories that are a little bit before, in this case, this is like the early 1900s, where there were people who are moving from the South into this area in Kansas, yeah. And it's like they talked about the experience, because some of them were just free slaves, you know, they're children of first generation, not born into slavery. So there's that scar from that era that is still there. So there's that idea of things were worse, so I can live with what I'm getting dished out, what I'm getting paid, underpaid. And in this story, you have a woman who is the head of the house, or she is known as Aunt Hagar, and she has 5 kids. 2 passed away, so now she has 3 daughters, and they're very different. You have the youngest, who she expected to want to go to school and want to do these things, and she's running away from the idea of what expected of her as a black woman, and she's making these really unbelievable decisions that are oftentimes sad, painful, and make the family grieve in ways that they shouldn't, and struggle. But she's willing to do all of that, and but as things goes on in the book, she's learning, even amongst her being stubborn and not want to listen, and you get that with her towards the end. Now you have another daughter who is the mother of the little boy that's on the cover, and she's chasing a man who is following a dream that seems to not be able to come true. She's that musician that's dreaming, that man who is struggling to feed his family, take care of his family, and makes him feel less than a man, and he struggles with that. And this is another case of, when you read this, you get that understanding of when what happened to some of these black men who feel less than and run away from their family, their kids, and no one knows where they are, but they will pop up at some point, months or years down the road, and having to look and see what they miss, look to see what they can't even do for themselves. You see that. Sorry, Abby, thank you. Sit. Oh my god. I'm not doing this video again, guys, so we're gonna continue. And you see that with him, and it was very much a struggle to not feel so disappointed by him. But it is a case of what really went on, and what started generation after generation of black men who failed and couldn't cope, and women were left with the burden of taking care of the family on their own, and put their pride to the side and still having to take care of their family. You see that in this. Then you have another daughter who has somewhat experienced some kind of success, but at the cost of her not wanting to associate with the family. They're not doing their part, you know, as a black people, because of what she expects, and this idea of what black people are not doing to succeed. It ultimately selling her soul for success. And it becomes an issue towards a part of the story when she has to help the young boy, and what she's teaching the young boy. Then you realize how sad it was for her because of what she had to do to succeed, to become a successful black person. It was hard. It was hard to really get into her, and you understand, because on one hand has motives in this, where you can see how her idea is thrown on this little boy who she feels needs to be successful to clean up the family name, which the family name is only because they're poor. There's nothing like they're doing that is illegal or nothing bad. They're poor and they're trying to survive, and they're doing these labor that don't pay much, but they're surviving. Now the little boy in this is like a prime example of a lot of little boys that in family where you're not being taught. Your lesson is based on observing. You're observing your family. You're observing the neighbor, the guys at the barber shop, the guys that you hang out with at school, and their family and what they're going through with their family. So you are learning how to be a man and how to grow up and make wise decisions based on what you're seeing around you. And it becomes this beautiful tale of a young man growing and making these decisions for him ultimately. And there's that moment where he realized what he has to do. Yes, he's gonna Aunt Tempe, yes, she wants him to do this and that, but he's taking bits of what she wants as far as getting the education, but he's also holding on to Aunt Hagar. Hagar said, whatever you do, do not give up. Continue, push, and get your education. But he also sees his mother and understand that the love his mother has for his father, and although it's complicated, but he understands why she's doing all that. He's learning so much in all of this that made the story so good, so worth reading, so much that I think that a lot of younger adults should definitely pick this book up, because there's a message in this that is such a healthy and positive message that I think you would get from this story. Because a lot of times in a lot of the Harlem Renaissance, the ending is like life goes on. It's like this is what it is kind of ending, versus this give you that yes, I am for this, that kind of response that you get to the ending. I enjoyed this. It was 218 pages. And it was very much a nice debut novel for a poet. Now, I'm going to be honest with the writing. It is a little bit to get into in the beginning because it's written how they talk. The dialogue is exactly what you would expect from people living in the Midwest during this time. It is exactly how they talk. So reading it, I had to take my time in the beginning where I'm like, what? Try to get into the dialogue. And then once I got into it, I was fine after. Which I think, when you think about it, you appreciate it because it's authentic. It gave you that realistic take of that area. And I don't know where he's originally from. But it would be interesting to know where he's from. Maybe this book was inspired by that. I'm not sure, but yeah, he's from Missouri. So, which is not, yeah, Kansas. He lived in Kansas when he was young. So, yeah, I'm looking at his little notes on him, and he moved there shortly. So yeah, and he lived there with his grandmother. So this is actually inspired by his own life. That's probably why it read like that. It felt realistic, very realistic. So yeah guys, I'm gonna end this here, and I am going to relax and pick up another book. I still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more books to go. We can do this. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and if you have not picked up some Harlem Renaissance books, I recommend that you add it to your 2021 list and get into it. There's so much to learn. There's so many beautiful stories out there, and that you will definitely appreciate. So yes, thanks for watching guys, and have a good day. Bye.